Hey, History Seeking here. Today we visit Newark Castle, a 12th century ruin with some fascinating history and beautiful gardens. It was originally built in timber and later upgraded to stone in the late 12th century by the magnificent Alexander, Bishop of Lincoln. Many rules and interesting events took place here. In October 1216, King John died here, and in 1889 it was turned over to the Corporation of Newark. Newark Castle sits on the bank of the River Trent in Nottinghamshire. The site has been the location of a fortification since Saxon times, but was modified into a motte and bailey earthwork castle in 1073 by the Normans, and later rebuilt in stone by the Bishop of Lincoln between 1123 and 1133. The town of Newark grew up around an important crossing of the River Trent, where the Fosse and the Great North Road converge. There was a fortified Saxon manor here, at least as early as the 10th century. When the gatehouse was built in the 12th century, it had 3 arched windows, the outline of which can be seen beneath the 2 Tudor windows, whilst the original stone on the northern wall was replaced by newer masonry when the castle was refurbished in the 13th century. The gatehouse is comparably well preserved and is a reminder of just how formidable the castle would have been during the Middle Ages. It housed the bishop's private apartments and was most likely the location of King John's final agonising night, allegedly having been poisoned in October 1216. The most famous, even in the castle's long history, came on the 19th of October 1216, when King John died here after consuming the infamous surfeit of peaches. Tradition suggests that the king died in the southwest tower, but it is more likely that he was staying in an apartment within the grand gatehouse that dominates the site today. After John's death, one of his knights, Robert de Goy, seized the castle and held it against the new king, Henry III. Royal forces besieged the castle and forced de Goy to surrender after 8 days. The terms were hardly onerous. He was allowed to leave freely after agreeing to pay a fine of £100. The castle contains 5 dungeons and prisons, and at some point in its history held Templar knights, whose graffiti is still evident on the castle walls. A chapel and kitchen would have been freestanding buildings in the castle courtyard. The castle was successfully besieged in 1217 by Dauphin Louis during his abortive bid for the English throne, but after the coup failed, the castle reverted to the bishopric of Lincoln. In the late 13th century, the castle's defences were strengthened with a high curtain wall on the riverside. This curtain wall is largely intact and gives Newark its imposing look. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the wall was pierced with large windows as the castle ceased to be a fortress and became more of a comfortable residence. Edward II visited Newark Castle in 1323, seeking refuge from barons threatening his rule. The castle was under the guardianship of Donald, Earl of Mar, nephew to Robert the Bruce, who made improvements to the castle, including adding towers along the west wall, facing the River Trent that remain today. Throughout the medieval period, Newark remained under the church control, but with the Reformation that changed. In 1547, the castle was sieged by the Crown and sold into private hands. Newark was held for the king during the Civil War because it controlled one of the main north-south routes. The castle was considered of immense strategic importance, and Parliament besieged it on 3 occasions. Finally, in 1646, the garrison surrendered, but only after a direct command from Charles I. Parliament ordered the castle to be destroyed, so it could be never held against them again. But fate took hand, plague broke out in Newark town, and the destruction of the castle was halted. The north curtain wall was 1 metre thick and had small rooms and passages built into it. In the angle between the gatehouse and the curtain wall, there was a small turret similar to the one which stands on the other side of the gatehouse. This turret was blown apart with gunpowder in 1646, following the capture of the castle by the Roundheads. Having entered the castle through the gatehouse, the 12th century visitors would have come across a range of buildings, including a kitchen and chapel, within a paved or cobbled courtyard. Important visitors would have been received in the bishop's special private suite on the first floor of the gatehouse. During the 17th and 18th centuries, local people stole most of the high-quality facing stone from this side of the gatehouse. The opposite side had survived in much better condition, probably because the stone robbers found it too difficult to reach. After the restoration of the monarchy in 1660, the castle was held by Queen Henrietta Maria, Charles I's widow. Colonel Thomas Howard tried twice to lease so that he could quarry the castle for building stone, but thankfully he was rebuffed. Then in the early 18th century, the castle site was leased to the Duchess of Newcastle. The family held the estate until 1836, when all the crown land was sold except for the castle. About the 1300, the Riverside curtain wall was rebuilt and a timber frame building was constructed against it. If you look carefully at the wall to the left of the gatehouse, you can see the line left where the roof of this building joined the stone curtain wall. The building was divided into a series of rooms, including two large halls, the Great Hall and the Bishop's Hall. The large windows you can see in the Riverside curtain wall would have allowed light and air into the halls. The windows could safely be as large as this, because the castle was protected by the river on that side. The Great Hall was for general use, and included a large area for communal meals, kitchens, storerooms and bedrooms. Fires were made in open hearths, with the smoke escaping through a hole in the roof. The Great Hall was also used by the bishop for official business, such as holding courts with the accused, being brought straight from two prison cells in the central tower. The Bishop Hall was used to entertain special guests and to accommodate the bishop's large personal staff. During the 19th century, the castle was used for a variety of purposes. A cattle market was held in the castle grounds, and a public baths built in one corner of the site. In 1881, a public library was built in the grounds. Finally, the castle grounds were turned into a public garden to commemorate Queen Victoria's Jubilee in 1889. The Victorian gardens have now been restored, and as a result visitors can freely wander the castle grounds from dawn to dusk and look out the 16th century windows in the curtain wall for wonderful views along the River Trent. Due to the Civil War destruction, only 1.5 sides of the castle still stand, enough to give us an idea how impressive the original fortress must have been. The west front facing onto the river has survived almost complete. There are also tales of murder, treason and even suicide. In the early 1900s, a castle ranger was found swinging by the neck in the king's bedroom, and guides have reported witnessing the ghost of his poor soul, twitching and jolting as he's struggling for breath. In the dungeon, hushed voices have been heard at night, and loud chanting have been said to echo from the empty chambers, along with screams and shouting from the curtain wall. In a secret dungeon where many poor souls were left to die in bad conditions, people have reported feeling oppression. Thanks all for watching, do take care and have a fantastic week ahead.